Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'd like to start, if we could, by having an invocation. I realize we've already had dinner. Our newest commissioner, Dan Combs, if I could call on to serve my invocation, I appreciate it.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for all your many blessings, Lord. Just thank you for this food that you have blessed us with, Lord. We just pray now that as we go through this meeting, Lord, that we remember that we're here for the best interest of Nash County, our people, our children, Lord, and we just pray that everything we do and say here, Lord, would be with those in mind and not our own self-interest, Lord. We just pray that we would be stewards of what you've blessed us with, Lord, and we just thank you that you would be with us during this entire meeting and as we go our separate ways. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner Combs. I'd like to add to that by a little saying, tomorrow's hope is that we learn something from today by none other than John Wayne, if you can believe that. I'd like to officially call Nash County Board of Commissioners meeting back together. We were in a recess meeting, so we're officially now back in session. And Ms. Wilson, I'll turn it over to you.
I'd like to call to order this joint meeting on behalf of the Nash County Board of Education.
And item 3 on the agenda, budget presentation, Nash Rocky Mountain Schools.
A little warm in here. I don't imagine that's the gravity of the event that's influencing me. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for this opportunity. Want to first thank our Board of Education for their endorsement and the support of this year's proposal. I thank the Nash County Board of County Commissioners for allowing us to have this joint meeting so that we can present the district's needs. The board's vision is clear. Every day we work to ensure bright and prosperous futures for all students by deliberately and intentionally providing rigorous and relevant instruction in every classroom every day. Today's presentation agenda is as follows. I'll review the budget calendar, explain the budget assumptions that helped us in composition of this recommendation, discuss operational efficiencies and adjustment that the district has pursued, and this is an ongoing process that we will continue to review to ensure sound stewardship of the public dollar. I'll then present the Nash Rocky Mount Public Schools local request for your consideration, and then open for any questions and answers. As the presentation goes, if you'll simply jot down the questions you have, and we'll hold those to the end. This year's budget calendar began January 27th with a presentation to the Finance Committee. We then presented the budget calendar for approval by the full Board of Education on February 6th. Throughout the year, but it came to a point of focus for the months of February and April, myself and cabinet members engaged in a comprehensive review to make recommendations for those efficiencies that I'm going to outline later in the presentation. And during the periods of April 7th, 8th, and 12th, we engaged in Board of Education small group revisions and edits in preparation of my recommendation to the Board of Ed. April 24th, we had the budget presentation for the Nash Rocky Mount Public Schools Board of Education. We received approval on April 24th. And this evening, we find ourselves joined in the joint meeting. The next steps would be a May 8th joint meeting with Nash Rocky Mount Board of Education and Edgecombe's Board of County Commissioners. State funding is generated through a process where the North Carolina General Assembly approves a budget during the summer of each year. NCDPI, North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, distributes the budget to school districts using formulas based on the number of schools, student membership, wealth, and size of the district. You have a handout where it shares the 10-year trend for declining enrollment for Nash Rocky Mount Public Schools. I'd like to reference that for a moment. We've laid out one of the persistent challenges that we confront as a district. As you'll see, from 2006 to the present, we've had a declining enrollment at the elementary level, which is that first bar, of a negative 16.58% decline. Secondary is where we've been hit the hardest. Middle school, we've referenced a decline of 9.78%, and in high school, 22.19%. We are working vigorously to improve our academic course offerings to ensure that we retain and attract new families back to public schools in our county. As you see, in anticipation of that declining trend, and the trend has been approximately 250 students a year, our projected enrollment for next year is 15,253. We are currently at 15,426. That includes our pre-K enrollment. The statewide average, this is from the planning allotment for this coming year, it identifies planning for teacher salaries, principal salaries, which is months of employment, assistant principal salaries, also months of employment, career and technical ed positions, months of employment as well, instructional support, and teacher assistance. That includes benefits. The governor's proposal, he's recommended a 6.5 average increase for school administrators' salaries. He's recommended an average increase of 5% for teacher salaries. It's identified in his recommendation an increase of 2% or $800 plus a one-time bonus, whichever is greater. Health insurance rate increase and a retirement rate increase. The impact for Nash Rocky Mount Public Schools, and just a reminder, this is identifying 1,456.5 positions. That includes state and local. The amount of the increase for salaries for that cohort will be $654,915. The increase for teacher and administrative supplements, which must go up in correlation with those increases, $234,726. And of course, hospitalization, $128,843. That's a total increase, an adjustment of $1,018,484. The assumptions that were utilized while staff prepared this budget were, one, the state fund budget was built using the allocation and allotment formulas that were provided by DPI. The formulas had not been updated at the time of composition to reflect the governor's recommended budget. We also had not taken into account the impact of legislative changes, such as the compromise bill, House Bill 13, which would impact K-3 class size restrictions. Those are not reflected in this recommendation. As I shared in my opening, we've had to engage in ensuring operational efficiencies as a district. These have been very difficult decisions, and because we know how impactful it is when you're talking about people's livelihood, we wanted to ensure that we had guiding principles. The following guiding principles were considered during the reduction process. We wanted to give priority to programs and services that directly impact the classroom and support state and district instructional initiatives. We wanted to ensure elimination of duplicative and underperforming programs. We wanted to identify strategic opportunities to reduce spending and increase operational efficiency. And lastly, as on an ongoing basis, work to streamline and consolidate positions, programs, offices, and services to maximize the use of available resources. The first area of efficiency was relating to our assistant principal allocation. We funded these positions on a 12-month basis for all assistant principals in the system. This put in considerable stress on the system because this is not in alignment with the allocation that we received from the state. Our state allocation supports approximately 10 to 10 and a half months of employment for assistant principals. I implemented a 2-year process with the approval of our board to rein in our AP costs. Phase 1 will initiate for 2017-18. We'll transition to a tiered approach with staffing. We will have one 12-month position at high schools. All remaining assistant principals will be 11 months for the 17-18 school year. Phase 2 will initiate in 2018-19. We'll transition all elementary assistant principals to a 10-month. We'll then have tiers in the district of 12, 11, and 10 months based at secondary, and this will be determined by school size. Clerical allocation was also adjusted. We funded all clerical positions on a 12-month basis. This was misaligned with our allocation. Our allocation supports 10 months of employment for all clerical, with the exception of bookkeepers and data managers. I initiated a transition for all clerical to be 10 months effective 2017-18. Bookkeepers and data managers, because of the structure and nature of their work, will remain at 12 months at this time. The savings to the district are listed as follows. The Phase 1 assistant principal reduction in force will equate to $139,807 in savings. That again begins in 2017-18. Phase 2 will transition to $330,809 in savings for the district. The clerical reduction in force will save us $232,678. We have also initiated a transition at central office. We've eliminated instructional support positions totaling $350,000. That will again begin 17-18. We've had a reduction and repurpose of curricular purchases of $400,000. In total, we've had reductions of $1.4 million. We will again continue to pursue aggressively ways that we can streamline our work, but we cannot cut our way to excellence. We are aggressively pursuing alternative funds to support our initiatives and trying to bolster our community and statewide partnerships. As I shared, we can't cut ourselves to excellence. And the most concerning thing as a leader during this budget process, really I should say that public education has been in a period of austerity for about a 10-year period. Never have I felt the strain as much as I have this year in leadership. By that I mean we were confronting decisions where it was a potential of mortgaging our future just for survival. And at one point we had to stop our discussions, and I asked the cabinet that was joining me, I said, listen, did anyone in this room join this profession just to survive? Not one hand went up. We must continue to innovate. We must continue to invest. We must continue to flourish as a system if we're going to compete. So we will remain future focused, and these are the initiatives that will be expanding in 17-18. Our partnership with communities and schools will grow. We put student support specialists in 10 of our most challenged schools this year to work with the most acute students. When I first made the pilgrimage to Nash Rocky Mount, talking to elementary principals and principals, I asked, what is the one thing that's keeping you awake at night? They said it's the students that demand the most attention from our teachers and administrators. They are becoming a drain. We want to support them, but they are so at risk that the primary tool is out-of-school suspensions. And we all know our students are far better off with us than without us. So we've instituted these professionals in phase 1. Next year, we will expand to have a student support specialist in every single school in Nash Rocky Mount Public Schools. This initiative is entirely grant funded. We will restructure the coaching and curricular support for all of our middle schools. This is an area, when you look at our declining enrollment, where we're losing students, and the data shows that it is in desperate need of restructure. This year, I instituted a middle school executive director, who's one of our most talented principals, produced the first A school in the system at Early College, Christine Catalano. She's been leading that effort. We have a strong curricular design for restructure, which will also include AVID implementation at the middle schools. AVID is advancement via individual determination. It's a framework whereby you teach children how to think critically, and they carry those skills with them for a lifetime. These are also grant-funded initiatives or the reorg. The coaching positions were created through restructuring. We repurposed dollars. We did not bring new dollars to bear. Data-wise implementation. This is a process. We have long since outgrown the days where we need to be connected to a product, an ongoing license. We need to be self-sufficient. The DataWise Institute is going to train teams from Nash Rocky Mount Public School. We have a district team, we have school level teams that will go for a week this summer to Harvard University for some of the highest quality professional development on the globe. We'll come back and embed that process district-wide. And it, again, talks about continuous improvement, how we use student data to examine problems of practice. We won't get better unless we continuously focus on how we can grow students so that they're successful. Lastly, dual language immersion. Partnering with VIF, we will be able to provide 3 dual language immersion sites to receive extensive support and instruction in a foreign language. Spanish will be the first language. We look to expand our offerings to include Mandarin and believe that this will help us to attract new students to Nash Rocky Mount Public Schools. For context, the 16-17-8 budget in totality, including our state, federal, and local dollars, was $134,189,849. The lion's share of our budget is dedicated to salaries. You see the representation for purchased services, supplies and materials, and the ever-growing commitment to charter schools. We've been fortunate that while confronting a 10-year declining enrollment, we've been flatly funded by this body, and we are so appreciative that you have not sought to cut us in alignment with the declining enrollments. I really believe that that's helped us to sustain some of the improvements. As you'll see, we've been staffed, and it should be to the tune of 103 positions. That math doesn't add up, I apologize. It's not 98. The total staff of those positions is 103. But you'll see admin, assistant principals, classroom teachers, clerical, maintenance, and other system supports. This year's local budget would be before the increased ask, utilizing the previous formulas, would be $23,362,391. Again, the lion's share dedicated to salaries and benefits, purchased services, supplies and materials, and the charter school allocation. A breakdown of our budget, the revenues. State fund revenue, including the revenue SPSF, textbooks, is $89,795,494 for the 17-18 school year. Local current expense fund, if approved, would be $23,362,391. That encompasses the Nash County appropriation, the Edgecombe County appropriation, the City of Rocky Mount contribution, fines and forfeitures, and interest earned on investments. Capital outlay reflects $1.4 million, $1,475,531. This includes the Nash County appropriation and the newly added Edgecombe County appropriation. Child nutrition, projection of $9,234,091. Donations, grants, and reimbursements, $3,038,465, for a total of $126,905,972. We are requesting an increase of 7 positions. You should have in your deck a chart like this.
It's going to be on the top right-hand corner of page 5.
Thank you. This is the breakdown of the classroom teacher allocation. For context, we give you 2016-17, this current year, and the forecasted projection for 17-18. The initial allotment for this year was 713 positions. The forecasted allotment for next year is 690 positions, 90.5. You will see that there are standard reductions and reversions where we will lose those positions, so we cannot count them in the allocations that we'll use to staff our schools. NCVPS, that's North Carolina Virtual Public Schools. You see the loss of 4.91 positions. The LEA class size reduction the first month, 1.23. The correction or adjustment to ADM, 4.5 positions. We gain a half position through the VIF conversion. And the North Carolina Virtual School SURE-UP, another loss of 1.2 positions. And if you see from left to right, this year we were left with 701 positions, 0.66, to staff our schools. Next year, with the same reversions, we'll have 679.16 positions. That constitutes a loss of 22.5 positions. As I shared, we'll continue to seek revisions and repurpose dollars to help support and shore up that loss. Our request for new funding represents a third of that gap in 7 positions. It's my sincere hope that this body will consider the challenges that we're confronting, the good work that we're doing, and continue to invest and support us to the tune of $361,000 for this coming year. That would bring our total budget, if approved by this body, to $127,266,972. If I could just share the next steps, that's okay. Eager to get at it, I am too. The next steps for us. Our Board of Ed, again, will meet with Edgecombe's Board of County Commissioners for a joint meeting on May 8th. Our Board of Ed will then submit the 2017-18 budget request to Nash Community, I wish it was Nash Community, the Nash Board of County Commissioners, no later than the legislative requirement of May 15th, 2017. Nash and Edgecombe Board of County Commissioners will communicate to finalize for 17-18. The Nash Board of County Commissioners will adopt their 17-18 budget ordinance on or before July 1st. The Board of Ed will then approve their interim budget resolution. If there's a challenge, the Board of County Commissioners has not adopted a 17-18 budget ordinance on July 1st, or the state has not adopted a final budget for 17-18 before July 1st. The board, in conclusion, will approve the final 17-18 budget and budget resolution. Thank you for your time. At this time, Mrs. Blackwell and I will entertain any questions that you may have.
If I may, could I make a quick, I feel like I was remiss for not making any opening comments. I have been in Raleigh for the past couple of days in a bit of a brain fog after sitting at conferences. Apologies also on the PowerPoint. For some reason, the updated PowerPoint, I think, did not get up there. The accurate PowerPoint is the one that is on the pages in front of you. We do appreciate, we thank you for the opportunity to be here today. We appreciate your consideration. By making comments now, I have the opportunity to be reflective on what he said, so I'm going to ask for your for the ability to do so. In your questions and your consideration, we hope you'll recognize the cuts that our system has taken and the efforts that we have taken to be efficient. And also we are, I think on Monday night, we were all very, very proud as he went over the grants that we have worked very hard to get to bring into our system. One thing that is reflected in the budget but not in his presentation that I'd like to bring to your attention is the streamlining that we've done with respect to our digital learning initiative. We have taken extreme efforts to try to come up with a fiscally sustainable solution to that so that we can afford to continue to keep our devices up to date for both our students as well as our employees. And finally, one of the things that to be reflective on is Dr. Jeffrey's statements and desire to continue to pushing forward with the dual immersion program. In these time of cuts, I'm hearing from around the state there's lots of pressures to do away with programs like that. But programs like that benefit our communities, they benefit our students. So now I'm going to send it back to you all for questions.
Thank you for those statements, ma'am. Open for any questions you may have.
Dr. Jeffers, you know I've always got at least one question. I'm a little puzzled why in your budget calculations you chose to use the proposed governor's budget instead of maybe the General Assembly proposed budget, or maybe we don't quite have that yet, but we would expect it to be significantly different. Is it just a matter you had to pick one and go with it?
Okay. The figures that I used in the calculation of the salaries that we used is based on the governor's budget,
right,
because that's all I had at the time.
Okay.
That's all I have now.
Right.
The allotments, the state allotments, were the initial allotments given out by the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. So it was a combination of both, because the governor's budget, I guess DPI just kind of did a modification and sent us out a planning budget, so to speak. So as far as the state dollar amounts, that's what I used. But as far as the increases in salary, we did use the governor's budget. And his increase, the 2% or $800 for non-certified people, and 5% across the board for basically certified people, and the rates of the increase in the retirement and the increase in hospitalization.
Thank you.
And in the presentation, sir, you notice we sat them side by side for context. What DPI has offered us and the planning allotment and the governor's recommendation.
Dr. Jeffrey,
Yes, sir.
I know you spoke about declining enrollment, which also affects the budget. I thought I heard you say that you're working on a plan. Are you involved in that plan to try to improve this, to attract students back? Are you involved in parents?
The question was, as it relates to declining enrollments, I referenced a plan, and does that plan include engaging parents? Yes, sir, it does. We reconstituted our Parent Advisory Committee this year. That's a monthly engagement meeting with representatives from all 28 of our schools. We've been actively growing that body and instituting programming as a result of some of the needs that they share. We have a Parenting Partners initiative in partnership with Word Tabernacle Church, where we've offered parenting training courses as a response to the needs presented through that Parent Advisory Committee. So we are actively seeking to engage our parents. We are assessing their needs. We crafted a grant proposal, TSL, the Teacher and School Leaders Grant, which if we're fortunate enough to get, will bring $14 million a year over a 5-year period to help support and provide incentives and retention bonuses for our highest performing teachers. Those are the types of things that having that open line of communication and actively engaging our parents have led us to shape future planning for the academic programming of the district.
Instructional support. I thought I heard you say, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that there will be a decline in that. In other words, you're going to have to do some cutting in the area of instructional support for teachers.
A part of our reductions and repurposes, there was an elimination of 4 instructional support positions.
Is that going to
And those were difficult. It was at the secondary level. Those were difficult cuts, but we had to reconcile based on our student performance data. The neediest child gets the medicine. And right now, our data at middle school demonstrates the most pronounced need. So we're going to grow and expand, and we had some grant support to expand the supports at middle school, and we're going to look to some alternative measures and professional development supported through our best teachers and through North Carolina Department of Public Instruction to continue the professional development offerings that those positions supported.
All right. Another point of interest to me was you said you're going to eliminate underperforming programs. Are you at liberty of telling us what programs you think at this point, are you at that point where you can do that?
We've already, when you see me identify the $400,000 in curricular purchases, those were programs where we had underutilization, technological support programs where we had underutilization, or we had duplication. If we have a highly functioning program that is meeting the needs of our teachers and principals, then we don't need to replicate those services with a duplicate program. So we've eliminated that duplication and eliminated those programs that were underutilized by our professionals.
Also about restructuring the school curriculum. I think I know what restructuring is, but could you explain that as you're adding on, or are you eliminating some and adding on others?
It's both, sir. When you examine any organization and you see underperformance, to continue to do the same things and expect a different result doesn't make much sense. So we had to engage in a comprehensive review on, one, do we have the professionals to do the work? Do we have those professionals doing the right work? And do we have them positioned where they could be a mighty lever to lift student achievement? That's what restructuring is at its essence. A part of it was elimination, a part of it was reassigning, and a large part of it is going to be refocusing so that we improve the instructional delivery and the critical thinking skills for our students.
My final question, And I think all these things kind of will reflect on the budget. Your individual, I would say individual teachers, do they have an individual professional improvement plan that they work on themselves? They may have, and the principals have the liberty to see what those professional improvement plans are.
Every single teacher in the state is embedded in our teacher evaluation system. That's a part of the component. Professional development and growth and reflection. And each one of those observations gives feedback on the progress as evidenced by student performance. So that's embedded in our state evaluation system. So yes, sir.
Well, I'm talking about their personal professional improvement plan.
Yes, sir.
Something
That's
that they take the initiative to do.
That's the way that our evaluation system is driven, sir. The teachers contribute, they do a self-assessment with those ratings, and they give feedback. It's a consultative model. It's not a come-in checklist. It's dialogue with, and it's an evidence-based process.
Okay.
Dr. Jeffries, just for clarification on the curricular purchases reduction, 400,000.
Yes, sir.
I thought I heard you tell Mr. Belfield that was programs. Is there anything else in there, like software purchases or anything like that?
That's it, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's mostly software?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions from board members? Anything about the presentation?
Well, I'll say this, I think it's a good presentation, and he answered my questions, I thought, very satisfactory. So,
Thank you, Mr. Bellfield. Just in wrapping this part up, I just want to say to the school board that this is the second assembly concerning our budget for this year. Of course, we had our budget retreat a couple of weeks ago. We are still certainly in a budget mode of been in progress. We cannot tie our revenues down quite yet because it is a reval year for us. We have appeals to our assessed values starting on Monday, and that process will go on for another 2 meetings after that. So it's going to be a little bit up the road later than we normally are before we actually can finalize our budget. But we certainly understand what you presented. We're going to do the absolute best we can. I appreciate Dr. Jeffries pointing out that we have been able to so far maintain our current expense budget level funding, even though we do have a reduction in students each year. We've kind of ignored that on purpose. One other thing that our manager, Mr. Lamb, pointed out to me today, I think this is our last required meeting, joint meeting, under our 3-year agreement that we had. But certainly our board would like to request your chairman, Ms. Wilson, that we continue these meetings going forward November and April. We are certainly wishing to do that. And I'd like to make that commitment from our board tonight and hopefully get the same thing from your board while we're assembling tonight. And you may need to discuss it, I don't know, but I think that's certainly useful for us to do. We didn't do it for a very long time. I think since we started doing it, our relationships have certainly improved. And even though we had to do these, I don't think we looked at it like we had to do them. I think they have been very helpful.
You're putting me on the spot, Commissioner Davis. However, I think that I have the feeling of our board and the sense of our board that we would be in agreement to continue these. So I'm seeing a lot of heads nodding, so I do believe we can commit to that as we move forward.
Sure. And as Mr. Outlaw pointed out, we certainly would more than likely come back with a few questions after we have digest all the items that you presented to us tonight. It's put in a very clear, concise process to me this time. I understand exactly what the request is, and to me it's much improved over some of the presentations we've had in the past. I hope Mr. Outlaw would agree with me on that, the rest of the board members.
Yes,
Thank you.
it's a complex budget, it's difficult to
Yes,
piece
sir.
it together, so it just
Yes.
takes a little time to look through it.
Yes,
Try
sir.
to better understand.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Davis and Chairman Wilson, if I may take one more point of privilege. I have limited context in this process. Last year, I believe you were all intentionally gentle with me as a neophyte to the county. This year, I must commend the Board of County Commissioners on behalf of my board that you've been very accommodating in terms of facilitating meetings, opening a dialogue, and ensuring that you are a partner and ensuring that every child has a quality education in the county. On behalf of my Board of Education, we thank you for being willing partners and facilitating that open dialogue. We look forward to continuing that. And a compliment to Mr. Lamb and his staff. They've been very accommodating as well in facilitating that we broaden our knowledge of the presenting to Edgecombe County so that they're aware of what this process will entail. So thank you, Mr. Lamb, for your leadership as well, sir.
And I will note that you did mention that we did agree to let you go first tonight.
You weren't supposed to tell me that in front of Mr. Carver, sir.
I
Thank you.
understand that. But, well, I won't tell the second part of what you said. How about that? Chairperson
Okay.
Wilson?
Again, we do appreciate, I agree with and concur with all of the comments that Dr. Jeffries just made. And I'm apologizing that, are there any of our board members that have any comments that they would like to say at this time before we adjourn? Thank you very much. Thank you. There being none, can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting of the Nash Rocky Mount Board of Education?
Yeah, I need to adjourn our meeting next week.
All right, motion by Ms. Chavis Battle and a second by Ms. Brown. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Meeting's adjourned.
And Board of Commissioners, we're going to take a short break. I'll break and move into item number 7, which is our budget presentation for Nash Community College. Not sure who's leading, but it's...
Mr. Chairman, I'll take the lead tonight.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Bill Carver, President of Nash Community College.
I'm sorry that our school board partners have departed, but I would like to say there's no more important partner to Nash Community College than the Nash Rocky Mount Schools. They several common themes that they were talking about: CIS, AVID, early college, and career and college promise that we partner in just to help this region be competitive. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I do bring greetings from the students and of your college and the Board of Trustees. In attendance tonight, I have Chairman Dickens, Vice Chairman Mr. Jaber, got Sonny Foster with us, and of course we have our other members that are in their dual roles, Mr. Outlaw and Ms. Wells. This budget was prepared by Vice President Covington, and with your indulgence, I'll walk you through a few of the highlights. I think you have the budget in front of you. And excuse me, I didn't think it was necessary to have a PowerPoint presentation for this group, but next time I will do so. If you look at the page 1, you will see that and compare it to the little blue box. I think if y'all have a color copy, you'll see that the increase that we're requesting tonight is around $95,000. And then in capital plant fund request, about $25,000. So if we can flip over to page 2, you can see that that's broken down accordingly and given some historical numbers. And then we can flip over to page 3, and I will try to highlight where some of those increases come from in preparation of this budget. As you know, that there are about 20 positions, 12 full-time and 8 part-time positions that are funded out of county funds, and that's in the custodial and maintenance operation of the college, And the last two columns, you can see there's a slight increase. As you heard Dr. Jeffries talking about, the state budget was built on a 2% increase and some bonuses. We have some of the same language in our legislative preparations as they're doing the budget, and from the governor's request for community colleges, they have projected 2% increase for salaries. We have tried to match that in preparation of our budget. We got, and that's in that first item. Hospitalization is another item, retirement's another item. Hospitalization is projected to go up about 1.5%, and a little bit more in retirement. We've also projected down, and excuse me if I'm moving too fast, the numbers in contracted services. That's where our deputies are paid for security. Remind you that several years ago you did agree to help us with security, and we still appreciate that. We don't need any reminders this day and age about that. We see it in the news all the time. We keep a full-time deputy on campus in addition to our officers, since we are now have our own police force, but it is prudent for us to have Nash County deputy at all times, and they do come out of that line item. And then the other biggie, I guess, and about $10,000 in that area is down in electricity. And that's a projection based on where we feel and kind of crunching some numbers on the meters and what costs that we have and the tonnage of air conditioning, those things. So there is a little projected increase there. Down in plant maintenance, a little bit of increase and all the way down in facility repairs. And we just, knowing that we do have some things, and yes, we have done a great deal of repairs in the past year, but we have minor repairs that come out of that line, facility repairs, and then we've projected about $15,000. I wish I had a crystal ball and they would say, no repairs needed this year, but past history has told me that we always have a few in front of us, and so we have projected that there as well. That's really out of the 95,000, and there's a few other little things I think that add up, but those were the biggie items of the 95 that were reflected. And I think that you'll notice when we go back to page 5 in capital funds, plant funds request, you'll see that's significantly different from last year's budget. I didn't bring one as an example, but believe me, it is significantly different from the request that we had last year that was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not over $1 million. And that's due to the fact that we've already spent over $1 million of bond money to address some of those concerns that this board may have had, plus the fact that you were very supportive last year when we had some major repairs that were required and came back to this board, and you were generous enough to augment our budget so that we could get the air conditioning fixed in the Science and Technology building. So that capital funds request has been pared down to $275,000 with just one critical need item of the security camera system in the daycare. Ladies and gentlemen, I know I moved through that very quickly. I hope not too quickly, but thank you again for your support. Thank you again for the new building. I thank you for the 3-1 that you signed, which is a capital request for the advanced manufacturing building. I think you've heard me say this many times in this body. Dr. Jeffrey says it was his second time. This is my 12th to come before you, and every single time I repeat what I've always said. The first time I was here is that I want Nash Community College to project what is best about Nash County: modern facilities, attractive, inviting, and an equal partner with you, standing shoulder to shoulder in economic development, so we can attract the industry and keep the industry here. And if we haven't had any closures, I can tell you we're working closely with our industry partners. We're working closely with the names that you would expect us to work with: Cummins, Honeywell, Pfizer, Duke Energy, one of our partners in training. You know that we have the line construction program, and we have students from all over the state that come here to train in that, what we would call our premier program. So again, thank you for your support, and I will entertain any questions at this time of me or Vice President Covington, who helped prepare this budget.
questions, board members?
On your capital request here,
Page 5?
on capital request, I see you, page 5. You're asking for $275,000. Is that above what you're getting now?
You know, on page 1, we got $250,000 last year. And
Okay, and you want 25 additional?
yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Other questions?
In connection with the request on capital, I assume you put this together with some pricing. Have you identified where you need to use that money, and this is what you think the cost will be?
This is an estimate. We haven't had hard bids yet, but once funded, we will use a bid process.
Okay.
If funded, I guess I should have said.
Would $40,000 get the security system up to date?
Yes, ma'am. It is an old VCR system to tell you how old it is, and this will give us a digital system. It is beyond upgrading at this point. It just needs to be replaced. It's original, basically, Ms. Wells, it's original to that, so 1999 system.
Just on the capital, just mention Mr. Bellfield's benefit. The item there that has taken that above where it was this year is the critical need for the security camera replacements. And I would also mention that the community college has dedicated $1.7+ million to deferred maintenance items. So we appreciate the community college dedicating that money to that. It certainly will help us going forward. This capital is down from what it was considerably. It was close to 600.
Mr. Outlaw, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank this body for the support for the advanced manufacturing building that is under construction now. We hope, well, the site work is completed. We hope that it will start construction in the next 60 days. Again, that gives Nash County a very competitive building and modern facility that will be equal to that of some of the schools in the Piedmont that we compete against in the machining area, robotics, and advanced manufacturing items. So thank you for your insight and understanding that this does help Nash County be competitive and support our major employer, Cummins.
That's what I was getting straight how my agenda ran. Is there any more questions about the budget, the presentation? Y'all seen, Dr. Carver, I think you would say we seem much easier than that last year, maybe? I just get that feeling, I'm not sure.
Well, if it's over, it's easier.
Yeah.
I don't know, Mr. Chairman, you got some other questions for me?
I'll give that speech at the end. I do not. I do not. I sure do not. We're now at discussions and other concerns, and of course, what item we got, as we were made aware of, is a resolution that is needed by the college that you had in your packet, and we got emailed to us a little bit earlier. Okay, I see it now. I kept looking for Department of Transportation here, because I thought that's what it was concerning. I see it now, okay.
This is per Gustavus.
Right. Yes. Yeah, I knew he had called and talked to me about that, and I wanted to make sure that that's what this particular resolution was. And basically, for the board members, what's going on is as we always do, the community college has gone to the Department of Transportation to see if they could get any help with funding for the additional road that's going to go in with this particular construction. And when our representative Tullis called me about it, he seemed, quite frankly, very positive that he could make this happen, but he did need a resolution from the Board of Commissioners supporting the project. So that's what this is about. So is there any questions on the resolution? If not, I'd entertain a motion from a board member to approve it.
I make a motion to approve.
All right, made by Ms. Wells, seconded by Ms. Richardson. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? So I turn the signed copy over. I took the privilege. I got it. Don't get it. Took the privilege. Not for approval, but I'm gonna give it. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. And we're still on item number 8, discussion and other concerns as it relates to the community college. Anything else board member wishes to bring up or staff? Somebody wants to go home early tonight, I think, which is always good.
I would just say that in conversations with the president, that the building C, the building that's going to be turned over for the early college will be able to be turned over July 1 of 2018. So next July 1, we'll have that building, and at that point, repairs and renovations will be able to be made to accommodate the early college.
It depends on some contractor undetermined doing what he says he's going to do. I said that depends on some contractor that's yet undetermined to do what he says he's going to do. But you need a building until you get the new buildings.
Yes, sir.
It seems
That's true.
somewhat aggressive, but site work, I keep forgetting it's done. So
yes, sir.
That should help tremendously. And of course, what Mr. Lamb was saying is we, at that point, have to determine how we're going to fund what we would be doing out there, not for the community college at that point in time, but the school system. And we'll start those conversations pretty shortly with the school system. Anything else? We also have a set of minutes of our last meeting concerning the park that we need to approve the minutes, so it'll be available to go in our packet for the grants that we're doing on that park. And you had those minutes in your packet also. If you've had a chance to review them, I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes of our meeting on April the 17th. Moved by Ms. Barnes, second by Mr. Belfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Minutes stand approved, and that's just another step in the new regional park for Nash County. And we're certainly delighted that, and I want to personally thank our attorney, Vince Durham, for his half-glass effort on getting that. Yes, half-full effort on getting that property transferred into the county's name. That happened on Tuesday. I accused him of working on it with a half-full glass. He took it seriously, evidently, and filled the glass on up and got it done. And we certainly appreciate it. I know it was a little aggravating with a lot of moving parts, but it got done, and I know the board appreciates it. And I'm telling you, I really appreciate it. Freed up me a little bit of time to go back to work some. Anything else for the betterment of the board? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Ms. Richardson, second by Mr. Belfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign?